Hey guys, what is up? It's Dusty here, and welcome back to another crypto video. And today, I have an update for you guys on the Ripple v SEC lawsuit. This document that just came out a couple of hours ago is by far one of the most interesting documents I have yet to see in this entire freaking lawsuit. It is Ripple's response to the SEC, where the SEC basically stated that they want an extension, and Ripple now responded saying, nah, we don't want that. So today we're going to be talking about that, and we got a little bit of other stuff. But before we get into it, make sure you press the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I cover all the crypto news that you need to hear, and I mean, you definitely want to be subscribed. It's a smart idea. And now my question of today is, the crypto market's been going up, down, up, down. Are you still holding? Let me know. So James Fillon, and of course I also on Twitter, posted XRP community SEC news v Ripple. Ripple files its opposition to the SEC's request for a 60-day extension of time on the discovery deadline. And basically, the document here is 8 pages long plus some exhibits, and I just read through it because, well, I have too much time on my hands, I guess, and oh boy, did I find this one interesting. I have read so many documents, as you guys most likely know by now. I have read so many of them. And this is only one where I'm like, that is beautiful. That is beautifully written. That's beautifully expressed. And really, the SEC has no freaking chance. And that's what I also wrote down here. Ripple just gave a very big middle finger to the SEC. They just filed their opposition to the ridiculous 60-day extension requested by the SEC, and this ridiculous quote is not taken out of thin air. No, it is based upon what I saw written in this document. So let's go over the points that Ripple states, and you can decide for yourself whether you think the SEC's requests are fair or not. Starting it off, we write, of course, on behalf of Ripple, the SEC's letter misstates the reason for Ripple's opposition to extending discovery. Ripple opposes this extension because delay will be extremely prejudicial to Ripple, and because there's not good cause to modify the discovery schedule. So first of all, Ripple just says they're kind of screwing up our words a little bit, and no, we do not want to reschedule. We do not want to. Point number one, an extension of discovery will unduly prejudice Ripple's business. Now, that one I would understand already on its own. It's not one you have to really get deeply into. The court can deny the SEC's request on that basis alone, that this delay or extension can literally propose an existential threat to Ripple's business in the United States. It could literally destroy it, as we, for example, seen with MoneyGram, who did not want to work with Ripple anymore due to this whole ordeal. Logically speaking, the longer they extend it for, the more partners they could lose, and it could literally be so that they cannot operate anymore because of extra delays. And again, this is not a certainty, but it's definitely something to think about here, that this could be a really, really bad ordeal if they were to even take longer. Once more, that is only about discovery, though, and they're already claiming that the judge can deny because of that basis. I'm not exactly sure about that, but I would understand that Ripple could have some serious consequences that are also asymmetrical, by the way, because the SEC does not get that much of a cost, and Ripple really does. Maybe that's also why they want to do it. Another basis on this one is that the SEC knew this, because a little bit ago, when we were discussing the MOU usage, one of the things which they posted up was that every delay will be detrimental to Ripple and partially to the SEC too, but right now they're kind of claiming the other side where it's like, no, we don't care. Point number two, the SEC has not shown good cause to extend discovery. Even putting aside the prejudice that a discovery extension would cause defendants, the SEC's request should be denied because it has actually not shown good cause to modify the scheduling order as required under Fed. A finding of good cause depends on the diligence of the moving party, meaning that despite its having exercised diligence, the applicable deadline could not have been reasonably met. And Ripple would like to argue that that's not the case because the SEC's primary argument for an extension is that all parties have expended significant time on motions practice, and it does not and cannot argue that this motion practice somehow prevented it from timely meeting the discovery deadlines. So what it comes down to, at least my opinion, is that if they were missing deadlines left and right and they were not following the normal course of action within this discovery, then it could be extended. And indeed, the efforts expended on motion practice to date cut against an extension of discovery. Things were moving rather quickly, and they're literally quoting that there's no good reason here. To the extent the SEC attempts to argue that the motions practice has interfered with its ability to conduct discovery, so that again, some of the motions that they put up have kind of made it more annoying for them to discover things, the SEC ignores that the substantial bulk of this motions practice was on its own improper making. So it was a fault on its own. For example, the court denied SEC's motion incorrectly, arguing that the court denied SEC's motion, incorrectly arguing that Ripple's fair notice defend argument waives attorney-client privilege. So SEC is saying because of those motions being denied, for example, or those motions not being, pulled through quickly enough, that they were slowed down and so they want to extend. Ripple says it's your own damn fault for poorly or wrongly or improperly making such a motion or making such an assertion. Now, next point is a discovery already conducted. And this actually kind of is a second part, as now they go into A, B, C, D or whatever, something like that. So discovery was already conducted. To be honest with you, I at least perceive now that for a discovery to be extended, there needs to be significant cause for it, right? And there's no dispute that discovery in this litigation has been extensive. We can't argue that because there's been thousands upon thousands of documents delivered. That does not support a conclusion that the SEC has been diligent. To the contrary, the SEC has delayed in serving a substantial portion of its discovery request to defendants. This is yet another confirmation that Ripple has been waiting on a lot of these documents. Like, for example, the Bitcoin, Ether, and XRP ones, we've been waiting on them, and SEC just keeps denying them or keeps hiding them or taking it slow. For example, a good one there is that Ripple requested some documents time upon time again and still have yet to receive them. For example, the SEC represents at 4 that it sought the production of documents from defendants within a few weeks of the beginning of the discovery period. But in fact, so this is Ripple correcting them, the SEC is still serving requests for production on defendants. On May 20th and June 4th, it served a total of 16 new requests for the production. It offers no explanation for the delay, and it does not and cannot contend that the documents sought in these belated requests are ones it did not learn about until discovery. So this specific part here is that Ripple is saying that the SEC is just slow with things, it's just lacking. They could have asked this stuff all at the start, and they do not give an explanation as to why they had to wait so long to actually request all those things. They should have done it at the start, but no, they're all of a sudden at the end of things requesting a ton of documents. That's interesting. Once more, it shows the improper diligence on the SEC side. Once more, only my opinion though. Additional discovery sought. The SEC argues at 4.4 that it needs more time for discovery because, and this is a funny one, Ripple's production of documents is not complete. The SEC cannot show good cause to justify an extension on this basis, and as noted above, the SEC has continued to serve documents requests in May and June. Ripple's production to the most recent requests are not even due yet. As for the SEC's prior request to Ripple alone, which number 107 in all, Ripple has diligently produced over 73,000 documents and has committed to completing production of documents for requests received through May 19th by June 18th. All of this is on top of roughly 49,000 documents that Ripple produced in the course of this investigation. And similarly, the SEC argues that for both the depositions so far, Ripple has produced documents relevant to those witnesses only 2 to 3 business days before the deposition date. Once again, the SEC ignores that these productions were due to its belated service of document requests. And the first deposition in this case took place on May 18th. The SEC waited until as late as May 8th to make a request for these certain documents relating to that deponent. There's just a little bit of an example as to how that exactly worked. They just waited too long to request some stuff, so it's their own fault. Next, and this is some couple of points that they went into, the SEC argues at 4 and 5 that it will not have privilege logs necessary for its depositions on the individual defendants until July 2nd. which will be too late to use them in those depositions. This is incorrect. So again, they're saying that if we, but let's kind of summarize to some of the stuff that they need to get. Once they get it, it will be too late. And that's incorrect, is what Ripple says. Ripple has already produced 6 privilege logs, 2 during the investigation and 4 more during this date in discovery. 4 more to date in discovery, reflecting more than 1,800 privileged or redacted documents, including a privilege log of certain witness documents in advance of the May 18th deposition. Ripple will produce all the remaining ones before June 18th, so that's not a good basis either. And there are also some scheduled for these dates, but that's again said. Moreover, the privilege logs are only minimally relevant to the SEC's case in the first place, given Judge Netburn's ruling that Ripple has not waived privilege by asserting a fairness defense. Then, unavoidable obstacles faced. The SEC's argument at 5 that it has engaged in meet and confer. Meet and confers in simple terms are basically where, within this discovery period, the SEC and Ripple come together to discuss certain documents and certain points. Now, we have seen before that the judge, rightfully so, told them to just kind of figure it out for themselves, and it didn't work out properly. And so, for example, the memos, the internal memos from the SEC, had to then be kind of arranged through a judge because they could not conclude something. But the meet and confer is just you come together and discuss things. So the SEC argues that it has engaged in these meet and confers and has expended many hours interviewing custodians and searching and reviewing tens of thousands of internal documents and communications, which defendants successfully moved to compel. Does not support an extension. Meeting and conferring are just normal procedures, and the fact that the SEC has performed a baseline level of work that any litigant would have done has not been any good basis to actually pull this through or make this any longer. And as noted above, the SEC could have finished these tasks much earlier had it simply produced documents in response to defendants' valid requests for production instead of forcing defendants to move to compel. So what Ripple is saying here is, if they just gave the documents that they discussed, for example, in their meet and confers, it would have all been fine. But no, the SEC denied those requests for documents, and so Ripple had to compel them through the judge, which takes a longer time. So, and again, they were successful in that. Ripple's again saying that, well, if you didn't do that, if you just worked with us, then all of this wouldn't have been such an issue. And then there were a lot of avoidable delays. The SEC cites that, this is again what they say, the SEC cites at 5 and 6 3 categories of what it calls avoidable delays. None actually show, though, that the SEC was diligent in discovery, and none support its requested extension. First, the SEC complains that it's still awaiting a production in response to a third-party subpoena it served on GSR, but the SEC has not moved to compel enforcement of that subpoena. Second, and again, you can read a little bit more into it, but that's the most important part. Second, the SEC complains that it has had to serve subpoenas on individual deponents to obtain documents from their personal electronic devices. But that does not come as a surprise, though. Ripple can only produce documents that are in its own possession, custody, or control, and the SEC's request for production only asked it to produce such documents. So, the SEC could have begun serving these subpoenas at the start of the discovery. Indeed, it has known since February that it would need to do so, as Ripple expressly notified the SEC by letter on February 25th. Ripple is not in a position to collect mobile device data for custodians who use their own personal devices to engage in work-related communications. The SEC makes no attempt to explain its 3-month delay in serving subpoenas after receiving that notice. That unexplained delay is fatal to a claim of diligence. And third, the SEC complains that Ripple asserted privilege over documents slated to be produced by third parties. It does not argue that this assertion introduced any material delay in discovery, nor that it prevented the SEC from timely learning any critical information. And the SEC concedes that this issue affects only productions by 3 third parties, out of more than 60 in this case, where Ripple diligently reviewed a relatively small subset of productions for privilege, and did so in a matter of days. In each case, those parties' production are already complete, and this make-weight complaint, again, does not justify extending the discovery. And then E, I'm thinking this is the last one. Oh, no, there's even an F. Okay, so E and F. E was need for fair and efficient discovery. The SEC concludes with a perfunctory assertion that it would not be fair to enforce the existing discovery deadline in this case. It makes no argument that an extension of discovery would be efficient. To the contrary, It would likely increase the burdens on all parties, in addition to causing an extreme prejudice to Ripple described above. Moreover, without any showing of particular facts, it has been unable to develop to date, but could develop if granted an extension. The SEC can also not show that an extension would actually promote fairness in the first place, and there's no unfairness in this case that an extension would remedy. And F, what the SEC does not argue. Missing from the SEC's letter is any argument that the existing discovery deadlines cannot be reasonably met. And without such a showing, the SEC cannot demonstrate good cause for an extension of the deadline. Alright, so that is actually kind of the conclusion of everything. SEC also makes no argument that it has not been able to develop any particular areas of fact. To be sure, it identifies certain procedural categories of discovery that are still outstanding, such as subpoena to GCR, that it has not moved to enforce, but the SEC does not state that there are any particular facts it expects to be able to develop, but has not yet been able to. It certainly does not argue that it will be impossible to develop sufficient facts by the close of discovery. Again, the conclusion here, let's actually do a little bit of conclusion. The SEC has put up a lot of arguments, yet none of them really show why it has to be extended, why there needs to be an extension of this deadline, and how it's really going to bring extra fairness, or that Ripple side of things, or the judge or something like that was really to blame. Ripple is arguing here that the only ones who are actually to blame for most of the delays are the SEC themselves. So them requesting this extra discovery time, for what? If it was for the fairness of both sides, okay. Or if it was for efficiency for both sides once more, okay. But right now, the SEC just wants some extra time because what Ripple kind of thinks as well, they want to extend because then they could maybe think of some new plans to do some stuff. Ripple even says now, they can't even prove that if they were to be given extra time, that they could develop something better, or they could come up with some new... They don't prove anything. They're just saying, hey, we want some extra time because Ripple was slow at some things. We're still waiting for some documents and this, that. Nothing really makes a lot of sense. And then beneath the dots here, an extension of the discovery schedule in this case would cause tremendous prejudice to Ripple. In addition, the SEC has not met its burden of showing that there is a good cause to extend the schedule. The examples of ongoing discovery issues that it cites are largely attributed to its own unexplained delays in serving document requests, and it does not and cannot argue that it will not be possible to complete discovery on the existing schedule despite reasonable diligence. The SEC's request for an extension should be denied. That's again Ripple side of things, and then there's a couple of pieces of proof. For example, the emails in which the SEC asked for Ripple's docs, and the important part comes where you can see the date on these things, and then you can later on see exactly when Ripple replied or when Ripple got all this type of stuff. That's again what you can kind of feel and see in here. At the bottom of things, that again, it's not that important. Once more, that's just what I fetched from it. And again, I could be wrong about stuff, right? Maybe that's something completely else. It could, of course, be. But I thought that those were the exhibits, basically, where you can see the email that they are referencing. But yeah, what is my conclusion? Well, conclusion, I would say, is that I don't think this is really going to pull through. I think it's really freaking weak and is really good because an extension would be so bad for Ripple and so good for the SEC, as I think they would use that time to just kind of fetch something, to kind of look through more documents, request more ridiculous stuff, and try to build a case. But I don't think they really have anything on Ripple, to be honest with you. I think what their plan is to just make it so they have as long as possible to find one discrepancy, one piece of info, so they can fetch them. But right now they have nothing. They have nothing to build out in summary judgment, which is the next phase. They have nothing to go on. And so this is the last kind of attempt, but it's weak. And Ripple has just really gone over every point and explained why it's weak. And I firmly, for one of the first times, firmly agree with Ripple. Usually there's a couple of points which are debatable or not that clear. In this specific case here, I can really understand how the SEC is just not making too much sense, because we know a lot of those documents the SEC has been lacking for. And the motion to compel, which again is basically Ripple requesting the judge that the SEC has to give over certain documents, it could have been circumvented. And some other parts, for example, the privileged documents on Ripple's side, the SEC incorrectly assumed something and then tried to go through an entire process to get those documents. It's their own fault for, I guess, getting something denied, right? It's your own fault if you try something and, again, it wasn't proper. I mean, yeah, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Moving on, this is actually a really beautiful thing then again, right? Because if it gets denied, it would be really beautiful to see. Then again, John Deeden posted, it won't be hard for any expert technician hired by Ripple to testify that the price of XRP is not correlated to the announcements or activities of the company Ripple, but instead is correlated to the price action of Bitcoin. Like it or not, Bitcoin drives the market. It's still something I want to tell you guys. Even though I'm a news type of guy, I love to talk about the crypto news here. For a good part, for a very good part, it is still influenced by Bitcoin, not by XRP's utility, not by Ripple's efforts. It's the way it is, but it's the way it is, right? So yeah, hopefully you guys all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you press the like button and subscribe. If you have any comments or any feedback, let me know in the comment section down below. And I'll see you guys again in another crypto video.